And we're back with another episode of Patriotic Art Live with the patriarch himself from Patriotic Arts Community in the UK. Welcome so much to the show again, my man. It's so happy to have you back.
Thank you, Donald. Yeah, it's good to be back for another show, second edition.
Yeah, second episode here. So we're very excited about doing this show weekly, Patriotic Art Live, and so we'll have a different theme each week. Going to go through a few things before we get started. Last week, we did a theme on General Robert E. Lee, and here's some work that I did from that. So I did this live while we were doing the show. Um, in a minute here, Paul will get up his image that he did. It's a Photoshop artwork, very, very powerful art. I was really actually kind of taken away by it because
Yeah,
here I am thinking, here's this mild-mannered Englishman, and he turns out to be a total badass. So, like, holy shit, that's incredible. So I was really, really impressed with his work. It's
thank
very,
you.
very powerful. This piece here is on sale for $75. If anybody would like to reach out to me on my website, both of our websites are in the show notes below, Patriotic Arts Community and kent-art.weebly.com. You can contact me through there, but you can also get my book, Imperium Calling, which we're going to use today for part of the show. But before we get, oh yeah, and I would also like to announce that next week's theme will be Kaimuros. So that's going to be a very, very exciting show. Going to play some speeches and clips from Kaimuros and then read a little bit from his collected speeches. This is on Antelope Hill Publishing. You can look that up. Highly recommend this. Very, very strong work, very relevant to where the weight positive movement is now, especially in Europe. Um, this is just the time to kind of bring Kai back into the fold, into the mainstream of our conversation and things that we're doing. So that'll be a really cool show. And let me just check and see how you're doing there, Paul. I'd love to see what you did last week with your art. If you can
Yeah,
get that.
how shall I get this up? I tell
Well,
you what, let me
do you have a
uh,
camera for
yeah, I'm gonna
or
share
a
my
share
screen
screen? Share
shortly.
screen would
I'm
be the
gonna
thing.
share my screen
All right.
now.
Well, while you're doing that, I'm actually going to make some announcements. We have another organization called the Monthly White Art Challenge. And the Monthly White Art Challenge is run by a fellow member of the White Art Collective, Jay Ladark. So Jay Ladark is a powerhouse. Don't let her height fool you. She is she's a wonderful, lovely woman. I love her to death. And once again, one of the pillar members of the White Art Collective. And so she's gone on to start a group called the Monthly White Art Challenge. And I can't say how many, it's 170 artists in that group now. I'm looking at the Telegram, and it's quite astonishing. This group is really, really wow. I mean, it's 170 artists here of craftspeople, craftsmen, da da da, any kind of art, and they're quite astonishing. So I'm going to make a quick announcement from their Telegram. If you're not on Telegram, get on Telegram. It's really, really important for. It's just one of the more. How do I say? Um, it's kind of a hot spot for us and our people to talk and meet and correspond. There's a lot of channels out there that are not limited by the free speech police and all of that garbage. So I'm just going to make the announcement here, the monthly White Art Challenge. Christmas Yule is just around the corner, and many of our artists have work available or are willing to accept commissions. This is a great time of year to focus on supporting and working with our own. So here is a list of monthly White Art Collective sorry, monthly What Art Challenge artists. Hold on a sec. Get my buddy back in. Along with their channels and stores to make that a little easier for interested buyers. So once again, these are channels on Telegram. So this is the elite of artists in our sphere. You know, as the White Art Collective mourns the passing of its founder, Jeff Winston, we are taking different forms and different shapes and coalescing in different ways. And the monthly What Art Challenge is producing lots and lots and lots of phenomenal artwork that's within our cultural sphere that speaks to our people, our needs, our values, our movement. And so here are the accounts that are available for Christmas commissions or Yuletide commissions. Arcane Accents, home decor and assorted arts and crafts with a focus on esoteric European symbolism, sales performed through Telegram. Next is Aaron Art, good buddy of mine. Fine art, oil painting commissions, and sales performed through Telegram. Astral Avalon, music CDs, pagan goods, and ritual items at Avalon's shop. Austrian Art Academy. Wow, that sounds cool. Austrian Art Academy. Fine art, oil painting, wood burning, calligraphy, and more. Sales performed through Telegram. Circa, I'm not going to pronounce this right. Melano Art, Circa Melano Art. Um, Melinoe. O has a umlaut over it. Mythical art prints and one of a kind bookmarks. Bookmark transactions performed through Telegram. Wow, that was exciting. I tell you, this show's got some action-packed scenes here. Let's see. We got hand woven. This is all woven. Sorry, hand woven on Telegram, embroidered and assorted textile arts. Lovely. Sales performed through Telegram. What I really need to do is have a kind of a show of their work, and so what we're going to have to do is set up a way. Welcome, Splattercat. Good to have you on the show, in the chat. But anyway, yes. Moving on. Maiden's hair. Sorry, let's go back. Hand woven, embroidered and assorted textile arts sales performed on Telegram. Maiden's hair and moss, handmade jewelry and assorted arts on Telegram. Musings of Hulda, Hulda, hand embroidered and assorted fiber textile arts with a focus on Germanic art history. Sales on Telegram. Sunbeam Studio, shirts, cups, coasters, and assorted items created with European pagan themes. The Birdhouse, embroidery and paintings made with traditional techniques. Sales on Telegram. The Witch Mother, intricately hand beaded jewelry, esoterica, and assorted handcraft. And then lastly, Vollander's Forge, hand forged items, knives, and Mjolnir pendants. Very, very cool stuff. So, monthly White Art Challenge on Telegram. Look it up. Get into the zone. So, let's get my buddy's screen on here, and you guys can see me. If you could zoom in on that a little bit and enlarge it a bit,
Yeah, so
Paul.
this was the end result
Mhm.
at the end of last week's stream, and then I basically went and worked on it more.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
so
Mm.
it's it's I think I'm gonna change a little bit at the bottom, but
Mm.
you've got the E rising there,
Ah,
and
stunning.
then you got the collective, and then obviously the face. And obviously these guys at the front are supposed to be representative of the sort of the BLM types that are that were
Uh,
that were laughing initially. If you
yeah.
see, at first I thought I had the idea that they were dancing around and having fun,
Yeah.
but I thought, you know what, since he's rising, then let's just
So they're
twist
running
the
away from him.
tables. And yeah. But someone actually suggested, and I think I'm gonna do a take, update it. Is basically maybe shrink them a little bit, and
Yeah.
then have some so they're looking backwards and almost like falling over in fear.
Sort of like
Um,
running away from Godzilla or something. That kind of
yeah. Because at
dramatic
the minute, I
theme.
think it's a bit ambiguous as to are they being sent from him, or are they be running from him? You know.
Sure, sure, sure. Could you zoom in on the top part of the image? And once again, just to remind the audience, that is a photo of the face of the statue of Robert E. Lee that was being melted down. Black Lives Matter made an event out of it where they were celebrating it, and it's a kind of a, for them, it was a sort of execution that they were celebrating. It's symbolic of the erasure of white people, white history, and the triumph of ignorance and Marxism over truth and history. So it's a very terrible event, and it really is a testament to the power of the arts. It's not a small thing that our enemies totally control Hollywood and are infested in various other areas such as the music industry, comic book industry, and so forth. So they know the power of the arts. And so for us in the right wing, I think many people in the right wing are disillusioned so much that they've kind of abandoned
Mm.
it. That they might catch a movie here or there, but they don't go to art galleries, or they're just not engaged because they feel like the left has totally taken over on that. So what they need to
Yeah.
know is that that isn't true, and not only that, between the 170 artists in Jay's group, the 300 artists in your group, Paul, and then all the extra, probably at least another 200 or 300 artists related to the White Art Collective, we are a gigantic culture with a lot of power and a lot of inspiration, a lot of insight, a lot of love for our people. But we need the audience, we need the platforms, we need to get our work out there. So always encouraging
Mhm.
people to share the show, get involved in our culture. These shows, this show, for example, is like a kind of bonfire for us to dance around. It's a place for us to meet and coalesce and be comfortable. It's a bit cozy, to be around people that get it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
what we're doing next is the theme for today will be white positive entertainment. So what have you got in mind for that, Paul? I'm really curious to see, how are you going to approach that theme in your artwork? And we're going to create it live today. I've started a piece
Yeah.
myself,
Awesome.
that I'll talk about in a bit, but I'm actually going to read some poetry from my book to, excuse me, to get the mood flowing. But I'm going to do a work of art based on the superhero character called Westguard. Westguard is essentially a kind of a fascist superhero, fascist in the sense of the original definition, which would be from Giovanni Gentile,
If you
the
want to
philosopher.
switch the switch in so it's the main screen at the minute, I think.
I'm sorry, say that again. I didn't catch what you said. One more
Switch so
time.
it's the mainstream for now. I think because it's a small thumbnail right now.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I did want
Yeah,
the
yeah,
audience to see. They'll see what I'm doing, but I'll switch back over if I can do that. Hold on a sec. I think this is.
yeah, yeah. That's
Um,
better.
it gives you a little bit of a view of what I've got going on with this character here. And so, again, to define fascism as I mean it, is that it is nationalism based on God, family, and country, nothing more. It's commonly understood that it represents totalitarianism or authoritarianism,
Hmm.
and that is the political ideological expression from Mussolini's fascism. So that's another topic. I'm, in a sense, I think we could simply say that he's nationalist. He's a nationalist. So
Hmm.
that would like clear up, some of those sort of verbal issues here. But let's go back to you. You've got, and this is the piece I started. So what do you
Cool.
got going on there on the screen, buddy?
So this is just a snapshot from the website. um,
Mhm.
so we've got the two contests going off today. We're focusing on the creative contest, and the idea is essentially to create something like a movie poster,
Mm,
a drawing,
nice.
could even be a meme, could be a series of photos, could be poetry, could be a short story. But
Mm,
we're essentially trying to create like an archive of like what's your favorite what, think of a story that you'd like to see, um,
Mhm.
told that's white based, you know,
Yeah.
something which would have played sort of 50 years ago to you know,
Mhm.
respectfully uphold our people and our
Yeah.
culture and
Yeah.
things like that. So think of a
And
story
didn't
and
have
tell
any
it.
diversity in it at all.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, think of a story. Could be anything.
Mm.
So it could be, yeah, you tend to have your protagonist, antagonist,
Mhm.
and you tend to have maybe a woman or a child or some key characters that and try and thread a decent moral to it. And today I was going to attempt to, well, I was wanted to talk through a story with yourselves and engage with anyone who's watching live now to throw up some ideas. We can come up with an idea together the next sort of 15 minutes, and then I'll start sketching out a rough kind of wireframe sketch of a movie poster for it, and then I'll probably finish it, and maybe we can review the final thing next week. Because I doubt I'll finish it within the time that we've got today, but it'll be good to just work together to get the initial
Mhm.
idea going.
Marvelous. Marvelous. So, are you going to get started then?
Yeah, well, let's start. Like, um, have you already thought of an idea for this today?
Oh, I'm sorry, for your contest or for my artwork for our show?
Well, for both.
Ah, so I actually have several stories like scripts just, sitting on my laptop. And
Okay.
I think what I would need to do is perhaps abridge them, make them a bit smaller because some of them
Well,
are yeah.
why don't we take some suggestions from anyone watching now? Think up some uh, a general storyline. Um,
Well, I think that
why don't
me as a comic book writer illustrator, I can help a little bit with that. So, in terms of, excuse me, the structure, plot structure.
yeah.
So a lot of times you would start with an idea like, well, what is it I want to say? So let's say, for example, God, family, and nation. Maybe those are
Hmm.
like three pillars of nationalism. And so, and you're trying to express that these are the most, these are the three central pillars of nationalism. So you might say, well, you know, what's the theme that leads to that understanding? Well, normally you would use a character in a kind of a character arc, and that the character would learn something. Maybe in the beginning they are sort of, they don't go to church, or they've lost touch with the divine, or there's some kind of like spiritual conundrum that they're going through. Perhaps they have kind of abandoned their family because of who knows what, political differences, or lifestyle, something. And nation, the sense of like identity through the nation, that you're it's one of the branches off of your racial identity, is what your ethnicity and your nationality are. So perhaps he, gets into some kind of situation where um, maybe he's in some danger, and he's saved by somebody who is very based and knowledgeable about these things. And under the circumstances, he comes to realize that, if I were rooted more in God, family, and nation, I would not have found myself in that situation. So, like maybe he's in a bad neighborhood and he's doing some kind of immoral activities of some kind, and he gets in trouble for it or something. And so the question then becomes, well, how did you get lost? How did you lose your path? How did you lose your way? And then the sort of protagonist in the story can kind of walk him through some experiences, maybe take him to church, maybe set up I don't know, a coffee with a family member, or get a sense of reading the history of one's country and all of the struggles that your people did to form your nation, or something. So like, that's just shooting from the hip, like straight out of the, like, I'm literally just making that up as I go along here. um But you see how I'm saying? Like that kind of gives like a general story template though for doing that. Um, so I figure what I would do is get right into the poetry reading while you're working, and then after that, I'll get back to my artwork, do some live art. And I do want to say hello to all the awesome people in the chat. We got a lot of fun friends with us here today. Um, uh, my channel is very excited about Kaimuros. Kaimuros is not coming on the show. The theme of the show will be him. I am friends with him, and I may be able to talk him to talk him into coming on. But we'll see about that. Anyway, he's very, very excited that we're doing that show. Regarding the merchandise for Christmas sales commissions, that is on Telegram. So look up Monthly White Art Challenge on Telegram. Um, what else have we got? We got a question here from Bear. You've heard of Power Girl? Get ready for? Oh yeah, get ready for Westgard. Yeah. So it's just real cool to have some new friends on here. Splatter Cat. That's a cool name. Great to have you on. Always happy to get new folks on. My subscriptions have been going up, up, up. So things are going well. Let's keep the momentum. Okay. All right. So while Paul's working on his art, I'm gonna go through some of my
Can you
poetry.
hear
This is
me?
yes,
All
I
right,
can.
cool. Um, yeah, sorry, just to touch on, I think my mic unplugged briefly there, but
Oh, okay.
general story then. So um, maybe it's a guy, he's in a dilemma and he's come to a crossroads. What does he
Yeah.
do? Is he going to choose his nation? Is he going to put himself on the line, or is he going to stay in the confounds of his room and
Yeah.
ignore like the problems that are kind of
The
on his doorstep.
yeah
You
the
know,
the incel approach.
yeah, maybe there's a woman or a set of kids. Revenge story is a revenge plot, but
Yeah, there's so many kinds of plots. There's so many kinds of tropes. There's a website out there about Hollywood and TV tropes. If you just Google Hollywood TV tropes, it's a kind of a chart that
mhm.
lists all of them, and it's incredible. I use it, and I recommend people
Okay,
check it out and such. So for people who are writers, I strongly recommend looking up that. Shall I get into some poetry?
sure. So while you're reading that, I'll come up with three quick synopsises, and then maybe we can choose one, and then I'll start the drawing after.
Lovely. All right.
Okay.
So this poem in my book is actually a song. If you look around my YouTube, you'll find this song, so you can hear the musical version of it. It's called Sympathy. These are the days. Sorry, take two. Sympathy. These days weigh so heavy on my soul. How can we be so young yet feel so old? You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna stop because we got a lot of noise coming from a keyboard over
Sorry,
here.
I will. I
I'm,
will.
I'll mute. Okay, you muted. Okay. And makeup, hair, lights. Take three. Action. Sympathy. These days weigh so heavy on my soul. How can we be so young yet feel so old? For years we've cried the truth, but no one listened. They have every excuse to hide the heart they're missing. Who can blame them? For our people have been so abused. Everywhere you look, we are portrayed as the accused. Many are the lying tongues of the Hydra's head. We can't coexist with those who want us dead. Sympathy. It's not as cheap as it used to be. Used to be, all you wanted was to be free. Bend a knee, or they'll beat you down viciously. Come back to me. You were not born guilty. I see you are running from who they told you you are. I'm warning you, it will be too late when you've gone too far. You can think for yourself, but are still too afraid to stand up against the tribe that made you a slave. Our people are waking up all over the world. Our enemies scatter as their lies unfurl. They fear being exposed. They shall reap what they sow. Now sing with me in symphony the Goyim know. Sympathy, it's not as cheap as it used to be. Bigotry only refers to people like me. Fragility only adds insult to injury. Stand with me and restore your ancestors' dignity. Sympathy, it's not as cheap as it used to be. Empathy is the trap they've got you in endlessly. Stupidity, believing strength is diversity. Now you see, all you need is your family. Imperium Calling. Art and Poetry of Donald Kent. So this is quite a piece here. I'm really I urge you guys to check out the musical version of this on my channel on YouTube. So it's kind of it's a cool song. It's sort of jazzy. It's got a sort of a kind of minor chord. It's sort of you'll just have to. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are about it. If you can check that out, that would be really nice. Um, how about we read another song? So these are lyrics from another song with some of my artwork here. It's called Thought Police. Did you take the red pill? Still on the blue pill? These days, so many ways to wake up. Does the SJW deeply trouble you? And all your friends just want to break up? Thought police in the streets, censoring our freedom of speech. We say no. We say no. Did you take the white pill? Did you take the black pill? These days, so many ways to lose hope. They want to erase us, but they won't replace us. These days, we ride a slippery slope. Shitlords unite. Don't give up the fight. The West is the best. Shitlords unite. Don't give up the fight. The West is the best. It's okay to be white. You don't have to thank me for posting all those dank memes. Winning info wars needs to get done. They'll try to dox you, try to outfox you, find a way to take our guns. Thought police in the streets censoring our freedom of speech. We say no. We're the last generation to stop Islamification. The Western world is counting on us. So wake up the normies and prepare for glory. Let's grind Marxism into dust. Shitlords unite. Don't give up the fight. The West is the best. Shitlords unite. Don't give up the fight. The West is the best. It's okay to be white. Thought police in the streets censoring our freedom of speech. We say no. Who's the man with the plan, with the Kekistan flag in his hand? Now let's go. That was in 2017. Let's go. So, how are you doing over there, Paul? How's your conceptions coming?
All right. I think we'll probably go down the nationalist route
Hmm.
of defending the homeland. I think.
Defending the homeland. Very nice. Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's a general theme, but we've got last stand. Heroes defend their homeland against overwhelming odds.
Hmm.
Home front heroes, ordinary citizens become unexpected patriots in dire times. Patriot sacrifice. So there's a sacrifice made. Heroes risk everything to protect their nation's future and defending liberty or struggle
Mm.
for freedom. Test characters' patriotism. So Yeah, is they're all within the same realm of patriotism and nationalism, but with nuanced differences, I guess. Um, so there's the struggle to embrace the role, and then there's once you've embraced the role, there's the struggle to fulfill the role. So
Mm.
which one should we which route should we go down? I think we'll have maybe it could be a set of three characters.
Mm, mm, mm. There could be different versions of the same character going through different phases of being red pilled or waking up. You know what I'm saying?
Like a past, present, future type thing. Maybe
Yeah.
it could be like a Christmas Carol version,
Oh
or
my God.
a
Yeah,
Christmas Carol sort of patriotism nationalist
the
theme.
Christmas
How
of
about that?
nationalist past. Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
wonderful. What
So
a
you have the
wonderful.
past, you have the present,
Yeah,
and the future, but the nationalist version
yeah.
of it.
That's
So
brilliant, dude. And
that would be pretty cool.
not only that, it's narrative because it's in the span of time. And this is what narrative is, it's storytelling. It's
Mm.
events that happen in a sequence. So I got a quick question from Bear. What made you decide on Imperium Calling? So I guess I'm thinking maybe you're asking why did I use that as the title of the book? Um, just mute that. So my show on this YouTube called Imperium Art, the Imperium Art series, which I urge everybody to go set aside some time and go through that. That is a concept that I came up with. The idea of how do I put this? The idea of the Imperium is a white Imperium, a white globalism, a future utopia in which all white countries are never at war with each other and recognize their racial roots together as one family, and in which we share our technologies and economies and medicine and arts and education and in one total imperium. So the word imperium really comes from Rome. Rome was referred to as the imperium, the entire span from, sort of like UK to North Africa to Turkey, this gigantic kingdom, essentially. So Imperium Calling is essentially me, my art, my ideas, my poetry, about this, calling for this kind of white globalism is a way to talk about it. It's an idealism. It's a utopian idealism. It's not in any way, shape, or form meant to harm any non-whites in any way. That all of those like minutia issues are for people in the to figure out and stuff. But um, think about if all white countries stopped giving our technology, medicine, et cetera, our economy, and all of our to non-white countries. What would happen to all the non-white countries in the world? Well, some are evolved. Some have high IQs and good genetics, and they'll continue to work and go on as a civilization. And many will fall back into the Stone Age and many haven't even come out of the Stone Age, frankly. And so, Jared Taylor, for example, has a story of when he was traveling in Africa. He speaks French fluently, and he went from one country to another, and you know, one was like profoundly poor and just horribly destitute, like I said, Stone Age. And he had just come from an African country where they had buildings and roads, electricity, cards, da da da. And he asked someone in the poor country, why is it like this? I just came from your neighbor, and how is it that you guys are so bad off? And they said, well, we didn't have the benefit of white people colonizing us. So anyway, these are topics. Now, clearly I speak in a manner that is not, like I'm not cucked by leftist, critical race theory dialectic. I'm gonna put Paul back on there. Um,
So
maybe I'll
yeah,
read. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just writing away. I think we've nailed a great idea there, to be honest. So I thought the title, The Nationalist Continuum, and
Ooh,
then
oh, that's good. That's good.
the nationalist patriot is confronted by angel of past, present, and future. An
Wow.
apathetic male sees what's going on around him and is apathetic to the change. In fact, he's been conditioned to embrace it. The angel shows him his past and how in his childhood, he felt a sense of joy with a more cohesive people and the culture and the things he's forgot, and that's contrasted with the present that he's taken through and the ongoing troubles. And then obviously he sees the future, which is
Mm-hmm.
the obviously the nail in the coffin for him, and he realizes that he
Mm-hmm.
needs to change and do something. And
Brilliant.
so when he's brought back to the present,
Mm.
obviously he's a changed man, and he starts to he gets his straps on his boots, I guess, and starts to make a change. So
Marvelous.
yeah, something around that as a short
It,
synopsis. I think that's
it
got a lot of
it's like
power.
the nationalist Scrooge or something, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
How
I
cool is
mean,
that?
this could be sort of targeted at liberals as well, really. You know, the guy that really is
Mhm.
apathetic and
Yeah.
welcoming them, every migrant to just replace them and kill off their
Mhm.
line, conditioned to
Yeah.
hate their own people.
Yeah.
But then, surely, when they see the future and what's around the corner, I mean,
Hmm.
I think there's still they're still open to change potentially. I just think they don't see the dangers and the risks
When you
like we
say
see.
they, you mean other white people in your country, or what
Yeah,
were you?
yeah.
Oh,
I think I think a lot of the left's morality has been hijacked. I think there's a void of
mm-hmm.
belief in God. Generally, they
Yeah.
gravitate towards the virtues of the world and what's determined as virtuous by the
Hmm.
status quo.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's in the media, and I think their morality has been hijacked through that. And I
Mm.
think once if they could realize, who knows, maybe they are a lost cause, but
That's an interesting topic because classical liberals, I used to be a classical liberal, and a lot of
really,
people in the movement, they came from that. Well, I think when you're in the arts, it's sort of a default setting. I mean, I was raised as a devout Catholic, which is very conservative, and my family is
mm,
very conservative. But then as you kind of go through the, like I say, the art education mill,
okay,
as they program you, to go against Christianity and et cetera, et cetera.
yeah,
Then you adopt the opinions and ideas of your professors, you know, and it's all based on this sense that, well, I'm special. I'm better than conservatives. Conservatives are backwards, country hicks, and all this kind of, like it's a snobbery. It's a bourgeois way of being, and which is contradictory if you look at kind of like the communist aspects or Marxist aspects of it. It's very strange,
yeah,
because like years like when I was in college, I was a lot younger and much more sort of bought into that idealism and such. Um, I remember going to a protest, a war protest, anti-war protest, and seeing like the people leading the protest and such were, like rich white liberals. And I mean, I admit it, I'm against war. I'm not pro-war, but especially America going into other countries to take their oil resources, all globalism, blah blah blah. But it's just odd to me how I think what it is. It's a sort of a bubble that they live in. For
yeah.
example, where I live and work, it's kind of a rich neighborhood, and I drive around and I see all the signs on people's lawns about, there's no room for hatred here and all this kind of it's just like you don't have a clue what you're talking about. You go and go live in the black neighborhood for a day. Try to just try to exist
Well,
there
you
for
can
a day.
tell it's just most people just reel off scripts, don't they?
Yeah,
It's
it's
just programmed
so there
response.
that brings up another interesting concept is the whole thing about self-actualization, and like becoming who you are, like finding out about your history, your people, and then learning it from that rather than sort of, adopting the shell or the form, the opinions of people around you. And I feel, this is my personal opinion, that's one of the core problems of white people and how we got to where we are, is that,
Yeah.
within high trust societies, I think that this is a normal behavior, because we're all kind of surviving together, getting along together, sharing the same values, et cetera, et cetera. But then when you have, people infiltrating, and they start using tricky dialectic, and kind of taking over the conversation on things, and redefining who's who, creating class struggle and all these things, then you got a problem. But, yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
So just a quick review on here. This again is it's a character in my militiaman graphic novel, West Guard. And you can see this symbol on his chest here is essentially, you know, Isaac Mosley, Sir Isaac Mosley, the British fascist symbol, and it's embedded inside of the Apollonian lyre. That it's a kind of a stringed instrument, and so here I've got him seated at a kind of a kingly type chair with this lyre in the background, sort of the head of the chair. But and it has I don't know how well you can see it, but it's meant to have those lightning bolt symbols here and there. And
Mm.
then I'm creating the back of the chair has, the sides of the lyre instrument are Viking horses, like horse necks. What you would
Okay.
see if you saw a Viking ship, they have this kind of horse neck coming out the front. It's a sort
Is
of a
it more
decoration.
like a serpent, more like a dragon type head, or is
To
it a
my
horse?
Right, to my knowledge from thing, information that I've gleaned on the topic, is that it's a horse, but it's perhaps something I could look up right now, Google it right now, but that's to my understanding that there's something to that. Um,
Hmm.
and so here he's holding a kind of it's a sort of a spear with a fasces on it, and an axe, and a halberd type of a weapon, that you can see it more clearly in this image here. And then in his lap, he's kind of holding his helmet. But I thought, like, for the image, that at first I just thought about him sitting in a throne. But then it occurred to me, like, I don't know how to make the bottom half of the image meaningful or interesting. So I put him at a table here, and this table has a look to it that gives the viewer the feeling that they are seated at the other end of the table. And then, so that I feel, oh well, that's more engaging, if like you're at table with him, what is it that is happening at this table? And then I thought, well, maybe I'll have like a map on the table, and the map, could essentially be like all European countries,
Okay,
and all
awesome.
white countries,
And and
and I mean,
what's he
in a sense.
what's he what's he looking to do? Like, what's his ambition?
So that's what I try to do in my art, is to create that question, is to create the sense of people saying, what's the narrative here? And it's the magic of art on a cognitive level, where you gather together all of the symbols in an image, and then say, okay, what does this equate to? What does it all mean? So, like, I'll give an example. Um, Here's an image, the new Saint George. And if we look at this image, we can see that there's an angel handing a sword to a man on a cliff top. She has a shield that has the British flag symbol on it.
Okay.
And in the background, there's a castle. In the foreground, that seems to be his family, with a kind of a dying father, and a wife with a baby and a child. So this clearly represents family. The so that's sort of the future if you think about it, and
Hmm.
the background showing the castle, showing the history, and then behind the angel is this gigantic red serpent, a dragon that is
Right.
serpentine in the sense that it's extremely long. The body of it is at least a mile long, and if you look closely at the scales of it, they are these hideous faces. They're like faces of demons, and
Hmm.
for him to kill this like giant mile-long dragon to save his family, his future, and the honor of his people, it's really the new Saint George, that not only the sort of common Englishman, but all of us. We're
Right.
faced. We have this gigantic dragon to slay of
Yeah,
globalism,
exactly.
and this angel is coming to give him the magic sword and shield. And so that's actually where the depth is. She's the source of light in the image. The background is completely black, so that it's the struggle of good and evil. Very
Hmm.
heavy image, heavy theme. If you give yourself to the image, you have to. That's the way art works. Is you have to surrender yourself. You have to think about
He's
when you
taking
watch
the knee. He's submitting.
to her. Yeah, to
Yeah,
divinity.
yeah, to her,
Yeah.
sure.
Yes, yes, yes. And then of course receiving the hilt of the sword. So, I mean, one could say that an interpretation of this is that we need to tap into the divine to find the power and the source from which we will win, and then we will restore our people, our lands, our nations. And that comes back to what I was saying before about the true definition of fascism: God, family, nation. Here it
Yeah.
is. Here it is. God, family, nation.
It's it's always I don't know how, but the lines of I mean the definition of fascism has been kind of loose or misunderstood, and even to the point where I even though I've been following nationalism for the past sort of 15
Hmm.
years now,
Hmm.
even I didn't really have a clear-cut definition of fascism.
Yeah,
So
I can speak
where
on that. I'm
yeah,
sorry. Go
sure.
ahead. Okay,
No, I
so
was going to say where do you get the your
here's what.
definition and
Yeah,
terms
here's
from?
here's what's happening. Leftism. How do I call them? Let's them. The Marxists. Let's just start off with that. Let's just the globalists. Okay, that's a bigger definition. They okay. There's a book called Rules for Radicals. Saul Alinsky. If you go back to the workings of the Frankfurt School, a Jewish Marxist group that created all of the design work on how to infiltrate and rot out the pillars of Western civilization. And
Hmm.
that's, feminism, turning woman against man, LGBT, um, uh, class struggle, all these various things that are all in that leftist philosophy. So, we know that the Marxists call themselves anti fascists. So they have taken the word fascist and changed the definition of it, the same way that
Right.
they're changing the words like male and female. Now we know on face value there's only two genders and the universe is binary and blah blah blah. So that's just the scientific biological truth of it. But the way they operate is that if they change the label and the name of a thing, you can change the law, and so you can set up laws. For example, I just did like what do you call it, diversity inclusion training with my company, and one of the things that I had to agree to is how people express their gender and not to discriminate against that. And I don't want to get into the spider webs of like that per se, but I'm trying to point out how when they control language, they control law, because law is language.
Hmm.
What do lawyers do? They interpret the law, interpret the words. So it's a very insidious, clever, and dangerous way to attack and our culture, and it's everywhere. Like if you know, it's the Matrix in many ways. So fascism is once was once just a philosophy created by Giovanni Gentile, and then it was
Hmm.
taken on by Mussolini, and has a lot of Italian culture. And Mussolini was authoritarian. It was, you know, all of it, all of your rights and everything is taken up by the government, and that is kind of, what's the word? That's, we mostly abhor that. We're like, oh, we don't want government control. Americans, especially, we're very libertarian in nature to some degree, and you know, freedom. We're supposed to be about freedom, not government. You know, so it's easy, excuse me, to confuse people, and so it's just how it is. I mean, I don't know that it can be fixed. I think there's so many people that use the word incorrectly that, you know, it's kind of an insane project to try to teach people the truth. But I sort of still do it because I feel like you should never let Marxists change the definitions of words. Because in 20 years from now, boy and girl won't mean anything because people were lazy. You get what I'm trying to say? You know that,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So that's essentially, I could lecture more on it, but I'll just stop there. So how are your
yeah.
piece?
So it's
Good. Let me do a close up on you.
I'm just
Kind of sketching it out.
yeah, very rough. I'm very
Yeah.
rusty with drawing, by the way, and I would always do base sketches first. So this is supposed to be um, imagine in the center here you've got the guy, the main character who's stuck in the present and
Yeah.
conflicted and
Mhm.
well, apathetic to what's going off around him.
Yeah.
Um, and then to the left of him would be like his a typical reaction of the past, him to the past, and really sort of his demeanor is changed to something that's a bit
Mm.
more
Mm.
ingratiating towards his kin and his
Okay.
people. And
Okay.
then the future, he's looking to the right, which is absolute state, something which he doesn't want to be part of. And at the
Right.
top there, you've got the angel who's handing him this scroll of information.
Mm.
Does he embrace the scroll and accept the contract?
Mm.
And then here, I thought maybe just have kind of a sort of loose scenery of actions that are going on in the future, present, and past. First
Wow.
idea, like, but I don't know. It's how to contain that in a single image. The
Well,
synopsis.
it's very impressive that you're just really shooting from the hip. This is truly, you know, patriotic art live. You know, you're really going
Yeah,
live here. Yeah. Let me check
I
the
mean,
chat a little bit. We got a lot of bright people in the chat that have their heart in the right place and they know what's going on. They get it. So it's always fun to get you guys in the conversation. Splattercat says his ancestors came to him and basically did the Christmas story thing. Perfectly said.
yeah.
We've
Ancestors
got,
could be good. And maybe an
yeah.
ancient ancestor who died in the war or something.
Oh, wow. 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 This could be the kind of the process that he's going through after he
Yeah,
died. You know,
Angel is a bit too cliche, isn't it? Angel and
I don't know. I mean, I'm not, I don't, I mean, if you feel you don't want to use it or you feel it's cliche,
well,
but I think it's,
you think
I do. Yes.
Angel? Well, we'll see. An angel,
All right.
maybe we'll see. Oh no, it could be ancestor. I do like the thought of ancestors because it has
Yeah.
a more of a connection to
Well,
his past as well. You know,
here's a concept. So it's said, I mean, I study this kind of thing that like when people die, they have experiences, and like there's people that have died and come back, and then there's a whole field of study, you know, asking, like interviewing people, what was it like, you know? And a huge number, I would say like 80-90% of them report meeting family, and then you know, the family kind of walks them through the situation and or says, you know, it's not your time, you got to go back, something. So and then people who have died before they die have reported, that, oh yeah, I saw my mother or my father or my grandmother. And so using that in your story is viable. It's highly, it's
Yeah,
viable.
could be
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah, it is extremely powerful. Yeah. And I mean, it's interesting to me that I believe in Asatru, that's the notion that we will meet our in the halls of our ancestors. So I mean, the concept has been around forever.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean,
Hippocratic.
locked inside of all of our DNA is literally our ancestors. Um,
This is a beautiful concept in itself, that like you are the culmination of like how many people have come before you. It's quite a powerful concept. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so
Yeah, I quite like this
Hippocratic.
story.
Yeah, I love how it came together. Hippocratic Oath is here. He says the three portraits remind me of Charles I painting by Anthony van Dyck, except they were facing each other. Hmm.
What's that? Charles Van
Oops, I lost it. Charles Van Dyck. Sorry, sorry. The
Anthony
painter
Van Dyke.
is Anthony van Dyck. Yes. Okay,
Okay,
Franklin's
I'll
here.
have a look.
Good to see you, Franklin. This patriarch guy takes a lot of influence from Go Free. Yeah, maybe Go Free is a good resource for dialectic. It's something that I think it's already kind of baked into the conversations that we have. I'm really impressed with how just like the term anti-white, or white positive, etc. These things are now mainstream discourse. You see
Yeah,
people
I
in
think
the media. Yeah, go ahead.
I think because I remember there was a time where there was a lot of discourse internally within
Hmm.
nationalism about
Yeah,
we shouldn't be naming certain names, and we
right.
need to take a different tack.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I've always thought that it was all every approach was kind of has its place and relevant, because
Hmm.
whilst it's important to tell the truth,
Yeah.
it's equally important to have a strategy whereby we can talk about things without
Hmm.
being dismissed instantly. So
Yeah,
it's almost like we have this two fractions within the right, and
that's
I think
totally
if
true. That's 100% true. It's, I'm really at a place right now where I'm trying to minimize infighting and work more together. So I'll just say, for what it's worth, that I see both sides of the argument. And I think it's a spectrum. I think that there are our people out there who are not ready for the truth. They're just not ready. And they need to have language that is non-racial, and it doesn't fall into the hands of, like leftists can't say, see, I told you he's racist, and da da da, like that kind of thing, whereby those people who are still stuck in the leftist matrix, they I don't know, they need to be kind of walked by the hand out of that situation and shown that it's not racist to recognize patterns. It's not racist
yeah,
to speak the truth, you know. And I mean that blah blah blah. The culture of the far right is very very based. And by based I mean spicy as hell. Like it's not for primetime TV. It exists in its own little corners of the internet and such. And the average person wouldn't get it. Like if I showed, like, my members of my family the memes on my phone, they wouldn't get it. But I'd be more inclined to use, like, some terms from the Go Free method or something, or I
yeah,
mean, and that's not the only way. I think, in fact, I feel like we all have our own ways. We all there, and it's case by case. So, like, how do I put it? When you wouldn't teach a third grader like a master's degree level information. You know what I mean? You have to
Yeah, yeah,
come to where they are. You have to sort of say, okay, this person is mentally, emotionally here, and they have like zero knowledge of history and how the media works, da 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 da. So maybe I'll approach this by asking them questions up to the point where they get huffy and I don't want to talk about it anymore, like that kind of childish behavior. And then next time go a little farther, next time go a little farther and be gentle and like respectful about it. And in other cases, you got to be kind of like the tough love father type, who just like, look, this is the cruel reality of life. Here's the plain truth, and you just have to face it. And what I've just this again, these are just my opinions, so like I'm not, whatever, you can take it or leave it, but um, I feel like with our people, it's only until things get extremely bad that they finally change. Like right now with the war in Israel, it's just the cat's out of the bag. It's not there's it's all out in the open now, and the meme war is raging so hard with such brutal truth. And then of course Israel is demonstrating that what we're saying is true and da 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 da. So
yeah,
we might be in it. Maybe I don't know if Go Free is becoming obsolete, which I'm not saying that it is, but I'm just saying like maybe at some point, because ultimately the 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 mission is to free our people, you know, and there is a truth to the idea that you don't want to harm your people. You don't want to say things that are going to put them in danger, say legally, or that they will lose their friends or so it's a very tricky, it's a tough line to walk, and I don't counter signal anybody. I figure we're all different soldiers in this war, in this information war, and everybody has their own methods where they have their own kind of how do I say, like you know what works for you, so you go ahead and do that. You know what I'm saying? But I'm
yeah,
very yeah, I'm just these days I'm very, very much on board with the idea of not infighting. I feel like it's really key to work together. I think if let's say a normie said, "Hey, can you give me a crash course in the dissident right?" And then if you were to say, "Okay, this is the culture, these are the different influencers, um, this is what some of the infighting is about, da da da," then you wouldn't want to do it in such a way that turns them off. You know what I mean? Like that's not helpful. Let me go into some of the statements here. My buddy in Spain is here. Carlo is here. Welcome. Franklin, that's perfectly fine. Everybody should contribute what they can. That's pretty much what I just said. Um, mm, Again, I don't want to go down the road of like infighting about these things. My advice is essentially you do what works, and then let the proof be in the pudding. That's essentially where I'm at, you know.
mm,
And I know the arguments. It's just that I don't want to make this show a platform for infighting. That's essentially where I'm going with it. Ever think it's possible to have a simultaneous genesis? Wow, that was an esoteric question. You'll have to explain what you mean by that. Franklin, and was constrained by snubbing from the. Yeah, I don't think anyone is snubbing. I think again, I don't really want the show to be like an infighting kind of platform. So, I have been on Jason's show. I respect him. I'll send him little messages of like this show or that show, and we're in the same war, but we're just on different battlefields. You know what I'm saying? So let's just take it. I think that's a good place to kind of, put a bookmark in it, kind of thing, and just say, yeah, okay, you work on what you've got. We'll work on what we've got, and we'll we'll triangulate or whatever. We'll meet in the middle, which I think is a pretty, almost kind of like a military approach to this whole thing.
Yeah.
I just feel like in time it'll all work itself out. That you can't live a lie forever. That there's got to be. You know what I'm saying? What
Yeah,
do
I
you
mean,
think?
the truth comes out eventually, right?
Hmm, hmm.
Um, and I think with sort of the internet, for example, a lot
Hmm.
of the truth is accessible. I think the boomers generation was one of the most. I think we mentioned that last week. The boomer generation have been so heavily lied and indoctrinated. They're the ones that are still kind of willing to kind of support something like the state of Israel when
Yeah.
there's so much information out there which shows that actually they're not our greatest ally at all, that they're hostile to
Yeah.
us completely.
I think my approach is that probably the best language to use for people who are kind of disagreeing or sort of infighting on these things is to use the term Zionist. I feel like that is more accurate because
Yeah,
it describes a religious ideology. It's a religious political ideology,
yeah, of
of
course.
of a certain supremacy, that is, and there's Noahide law is associated with that. People can look up Noahide law.
Yeah, I've
And
looked at
that
that.
way you take the racial element out of the discussion. Um,
Well,
you
I
tell
think
me.
of this. Yeah, the state of Israel is a political
Yeah,
state anyway.
yeah, yeah.
I don't believe that it's built on a homogenous people at all. Because if you look at the history of the Jews, they're actually an amalgamation of a number of different peoples.
Yeah, another dimension of it is the Christian perspective on the topic too, which I have some very close Christian friends, and we go back and forth a lot on this topic.
Yeah.
It's in good faith. There's no, it's not like we're both on the same side politically, but clearly there's disagreements on how to approach this topic. They see it obviously through a biblical lens, and I'll kind of say, like, I respect your perspective, your values, but I also present you these facts. And
Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
from there, how do you justify X, based on your belief system? And I'm not trying to attack them or their religion. There's no, that's not like the mission. That's not the mission, rather to sort of get people to see the truth, recognize the truth, and recognize how religion can be manipulated, to
Hmm.
harm them and us. So da, 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 let's see. Okay, so um, let's take a look at Carlo. I admire Jeff Winston's approach. I believe he never said anything negative about anyone or took part in any infighting online. His contributions was always positive. There you go. I think that's it. I certainly have been out there online and made my thoughts, about it. But I'm just in the mode of, like, I think that would make a great personal conversation between the two people who disagree. Like, you can take it somewhere and talk it out, kind of thing.
Hmm.
Um, and I really do love and admire all of my friends on this show. So I'm not isolating or alienating anybody by saying that. Um, and to be honest, at the same time, there's a certain kind of free speech that I want to protect as well. Like, if you want to say things, just be cool. That's all. Like, you can make a statement or something. But anyway, So what's going on in your world over here, Paul? I see you're working on your stuff. I thought maybe you would be using some photos, but you're literally doing digital art.
Yeah, I'm just drawing because
Okay.
well, I will use photos, to be honest. The finish probably will be photo based, but I'm
Hmm.
just trying to show something for now, like and practice a bit of drawing. To be honest,
Okay.
it's been a while since I've drawn much. I'll send you some of my actual art.
Great.
So I was training to be a concept artist for a while. I wanted to be a
We
concept
talked
artist and
about that.
illustrator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What stopped you from doing that?
Uh, I started training too late in life, really, and when you start things too late in life, responsibility kind of takes precedence,
Hmm.
and I kind of just gravitated towards things that were paying, like web design and general design, branding, logos, things like that has always been my bread and butter,
Okay.
and then I think once I started doing art for the Patriot, that kind of soothed an itch that I had anyway, and it kind of fell by the wayside.
Okay. Um,
Um,
yeah, it's funny because I've freelanced within the white positive community for years, and that's
okay,
part of what Imperium Art is it features a lot of that work.
right,
But I'm really at a stage where like I don't want to sell my skills anymore. I want to do my vision.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and it's hard to say no though to our people. And it's like, oh, I've got this project and it's super cool and I really want your help. And like, and I know there's not a lot of Donald Kents out there, who can do these. So it's a bit
yeah.
tricky. Um,
It is hard to say no, but you have to pick your projects and things wisely, I guess.
that is correct. So I'm now at a different place. I'm going to start adding some highlights to my art here. See if I can see what's going on in the chat. Okay. So next week, guys, the theme is Kaimuros. So that's going to be wicked cool. That'll be really fun. I think you guys know I'm friends with Kai, and that's not enough. I'm going to need a better resource here for my lights. So it's interesting about Kai because he's very, very, very based. Like the dude is like, wow, his work is very, very strong. It's revolutionary. Okay. Um, but like as a person, he's kind of shy. And like this seems to be an interesting, I don't know. It's just sort of a trait that a lot of like creative people have and such. But part of it is that he wants to have like in a case of a speech, it's already written, and there's no like mistakes. You just simply read it because you worked out all the problems, or all the ums and the ahs and whatever it is that you're trying to say. Um, he's been on Hyrus had him on White Art Collective some time ago. I think I'm going to dig up that interview and play some of that. Um, anyway, it's going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, you linked me some of his speeches, and I'd heard some of his stuff before, and
Mhm.
yeah, he was quite profound
Very, yeah.
and interesting. He's
Hmm.
another great mind that we have, and
Absolutely, yeah.
we've got a lot of great minds, to be honest, in our movement.
Hmm.
And I think it's these great minds that, if only people were receptive to listening, and then I'm sure that a lot of people will really kind of see his points, see our points. Really,
Hmm. Well, I think another side of it is that it's that whole like, are you ready for it? Are you ready for the truth? And I
yeah,
feel like
true.
unfortunately, a lot of people are not. Some truths are very hard to digest. Another thing is that a lot of us in the movement, we've already been around long enough where we've read books, we've listened to podcasts or YouTube shows, this and that, and we're already savvy to all the talking points, everything that's going on. So we don't need it explained to us. We already have a kind of a network of information in our minds. And then,
Yeah, true.
like if I were to, show, I don't know, like a Hitler meme or something to somebody, they're gonna lose their mind, like just have a freaking just like melt, like,
Well, it's
into a
just cognitive dissonance, isn't it? I remember I had
yeah.
I had a guy, a leftist type
Hmm.
guy,
Yeah.
typical liberal,
Yeah.
um, and we it was in a shared a studio space together in a
Mm-hmm.
building, and
Mm-hmm.
some of the stuff I was saying was to me very common sense, logical,
Sure,
and
sure.
to him he was like backing off, saying that's Nazi talk. That's I'm like, well, for one, it's really not actually. If you wanted Nazi talk, I could give you it, but but to them, anything sort of slightly anything that deviates
Right.
slightly from what their general talking points are, it's
Yeah. Yeah.
Nazi talk, you know.
That's what's
Yeah,
even more ridiculous about it is that, like, like to be a nationalist is to be a Nazi. And I mean, that's actually true in a manner of speaking. But, from their wackadoo mentality, it's just, everything not communist and not liberal is Nazi. So, and that goes right back to the whole issue of dialectic, about the use of language to manipulate culture, to shut down free speech. You know,
mm,
we can't let the children lead the class. You see what I'm saying? That's
yeah,
not how it
yeah.
works. Yeah.
So, are
Uh,
you just going over the outline at the moment? What's
well,
your general approach
yeah,
with inking?
that's a good question. So, I didn't, I wasn't really confident enough to just come online and just blast it out like you are. I think you're doing amazing. Um, but
Okay.
anyway, so like I laid out this drawing, and then I'm kind of relying on my habits and like what's sort of the norm for me to do what it is that I do. But I'm trying to push away from that. I want to get more painterly. What I am going to do is I'm going to get some of this beautiful white paint, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna shake it up a bit, and then I will paint on the highlights. But the way that it works is that you have to put the grays down first. If I put the white highlights on and then try to put some shadow over it, it gets mucky because this is paint. It's kind of paint. It's like an ink paint. It's hard to describe. But anyway, the point of it is to sort of like, you know, the the materials, and then maybe go in some with some really nice dark ink. But I've also thought that it would be cool to highlight it with, I've got some colored pencils that could add some zing and some flavor here and there. So I'm really just kind of going with the flow, you know what I mean? Um, we got a new friend here, Pine Tree Riots. Good to see you. Welcome to
Yo,
the show.
yo.
Yo,
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 it's like someone said that in the chat earlier, and I thought that's just such a 90s throwback saying. Like when you was a
yeah.
kid and you go through school, it's like, yo. And you actually meant it as well. You actually meant
look
it
how
like,
look
yo,
how ghetto I am.
what's up? Yo, yo.
I'm always Yeah, I always kind of laugh because I think like in Spanish, yo means I, and I
Really?
just
Oh,
people
okay,
running around
okay.
going I. It just sounds bizarre.
Yeah,
Anyway,
it's
um,
funny, funny.
yeah, it's fun stuff. And Robert Pyle's back. Good to have my man here, my bud. So yeah,
Mm.
um,
I'm going to throw some DNA symbols in there, I think.
Oh, cool, cool.
Floating around. I think, to be honest, I'm going to change it from an angel to an ancestor. I just think that
Okay.
there's more continuation, especially given the title,
Right, right,
Nationalist
right.
Continuum, because
Yep,
it's essentially, your nation, you're a people of past, present, and future.
for
So,
sure, for sure. Yeah.
and I've often thought, like, philosophically, I'm Christian myself, but
Okay.
I'm not Judeo-Christian. I think it's a big difference, but that's another talk there. So a lot
Right,
of
right,
different
right.
talking points
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
But I've um, I've often thought, if there is such a thing as an afterlife outside, the only afterlife that we can truly be sure of is the one that we live through our ancestors, isn't it?
Hmm.
So
Uh,
that is sort of something that has
mhm.
to be true.
Yeah, yeah. I'm understanding what you're saying. I think
And
that
marry that with religion, and I think that's
so there's different for me anyway, there's different ways to approach this subject. I think the kind of like esoteric metaphysical sense of like the soul, and life after death, that kind of thing. But
yeah,
then the sort of the immortality of art, you know what I'm saying? And like because our how do I put this? Art is a form of immortality in a sense, and it's a form of communicating with your ancestors. They
mm,
leave behind these stories, these monuments, these songs, these books, these poems, these buildings, all of this stuff. And it tells you who they were. And it's like every time I see an old building being torn down or a church being torn down, I feel a very horrible, deep sense of tragedy, like almost like someone's being murdered, in public.
yeah,
You Um, and because like again, that's our history, and our people put that up. So there's that. As far as the metaphysical stuff goes, I actually believe in reincarnation, and
really.
that is another topic. But that's my
Well,
Eastern side
I
to
think
it.
I think reincarnation, in sense of the physical genome, we are
Mhm,
reincarnated continuously. If I had a child, um, my genes and my ancestors' genes would be
mhm, mhm.
recycled or
Oh,
regurgitated
yeah,
into his being. And so I think for me that's the truest sense of
I
reincarnation.
get your point. That's an interesting way to look at it, and I don't disagree with that. One of the ways that I try to explain it to people is just more from a scientific perspective that we know now that matter is energy, and
Mm,
that energy can't be destroyed; it can only be transformed.
yeah,
And so when you put it that way, then that's a very base materialistic way of explaining it, but it's a way that like I said, you come to where people are. You're like, if this person's not ready to understand such things, so I'll put it in a way that they can understand. And so like for me anyway, that's just been the easiest answer for that topic.
yeah, yeah. We can philosophize,
Philosophize, yeah,
philosophize, and
yeah.
talk about that. I think they haven't really solved that one since the dawn of civilization. So I don't think we'll get to the bottom of it tonight.
Yeah, yeah. In the next 5 minutes, we will solve the problem of immortality. So, ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
hang in there. And now a word from our sponsor. But um, I think that, like I was mentioning earlier, there's this field of study. I don't know the name of it. There's got to be a name for this, where essentially they do interviews of people who have had near-death experiences,
Mhm.
and it's super fascinating. Anybody can look that up on the internet, and kind of listen to the stories of people. Let me say hello to my lovely new friend Veronica. Hi, maybe change the angle of the angel to the an all father kind of ancestor and God. Wow, this is an interesting concept. Nice. That's the thing about art is that there's really so many ways to do a thing.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, it's an option. I like the yeah,
hmm
definitely. I think definitely some form of ancestral kindred connection is got a deeper sort of thread to the story.
hmm
Because yeah, and angels are just a bit more separate, isn't it? A bit more outside of the scope of of what's being preserved.
Yeah, I think angels imply Christianity more, so it depends on
Oh,
what,
they do. Yeah, they definitely do.
like, what's the
But I
tone you're
think,
going for.
yeah, well, I want something a bit more real. I think that would
Oh,
work.
okay.
Something directly relatable.
hmm
Um, but yeah, that's definitely something. I mean, I don't really need to do too much more on drawing now. I know the idea and the layout, and it's a kind
hmm
of a first idea for the design, but yeah, it's what it is. I'll probably get loads of images, and like I say, I've started to utilize AR to to get the general asset or the like base images to work with. I don't like to just do one kind of AI art piece and then just stick my logo on it because I don't feel like it's mine. And like it,
Yeah.
at least I can take it, manipulate it, and just essentially use it like I have done with my other in a typical workflow of mine, which is kind of taking images, existing images already, and
hmm
then bashing them together to create a new one. That's essentially what matte painting is.
Uh-huh.
Um, so yeah, that's the thing with AI. You can pretty much tell it to you can get to your vision faster in many ways.
What's the process of making AI art?
You just find a quite decent. Well, it doesn't have to be. Most of them are decent, to be honest. But
Yeah.
find one that you like.
hmm
I like to use one called Leonardo.ai. I find that really
Mm,
good. Um,
great.
it's you get you get to use it for free, but then you can pay like $12 and then
hmm
you can get a lot of generations for that whole month. So
Okay.
essentially, yeah, just you write in your prompt, but it's not perfect. It doesn't give you the best results, but it's
Does
it
does it
can
do you
improve your workflow.
does it do your laundry for you?
No, not quite, not yet, not yet.
Not that advanced yet. Okay, I get it.
Like I said
Stupid
last week,
AI.
they are pretty. It is pretty dumb. Um,
Uh,
It's it needs a lot more layers to it, lot more screening layers, like automated automotive sort of correction. Like you tend to get gammy fingers, or it'll give you just things
yeah,
look out of place. It doesn't have that rational mind
I know.
to correct itself yet. I'm sure they'll
Oh,
program that into it, but that's all it will be. It will
yeah.
just be an added layer of human
This,
intervention or
yeah.
programming in order to
It,
create those mistakes.
right, right. I think we've all seen like really wonky AI before, and it's kind of demonic almost, like how it twists people's faces and just
Hmm.
morphs everything, and like
Yeah,
organic and non-organic objects morph into each other. It's sort of like nightmarish, basically, you know?
yeah. I was going to say that
Yeah,
nightmarish
yeah, yeah,
has some dreamlike qualities to it,
yeah,
surreal.
yeah. I wonder if that's intentional.
Who knows? Maybe it's. Uh, I mean, here's another philosophical thought.
Hmm
Obviously, as the Bible goes, we in Genesis, God was made. We were made in God's image,
Yes.
and as I see it now, we are creating, or attempting to create life or intelligence in our own image. Everything we
Mm.
create is in a reflection of our own image. from the eye, such
Mm-hmm.
as a camera and the things around us. And a artificial intelligence is an echo, a reflection of us. And
Yeah.
then you look at other sequences in nature and maths, like if you look at the Fibonacci sequence, for example, and
Yeah.
pi, and all of these patterns
Yeah.
just circling each other, and it's almost like the same principles are being applied here from the creator to the created, and then the that
Mm-hmm.
created to the created. And it's like an echo of
Yeah.
kaleidoscope intelligence.
It's very fractal in nature. That's interesting. That's a very interesting concept you're talking about. Um, I guess, I mean, there's just, there's a lot of ideas out there about the future of this stuff and what does it mean? And of course, we all know about transhumanism,
Hmm.
the idea of merging man and machine and how that would, in many ways, be the death of humanity. And, there's a lot of very, very sick, dark, diabolical aspects to that. It's a type of
Hmm.
like soul slavery, essentially, and it would change the evolutionary course of humanity itself. So it's some very, very, and guess who's behind it all? Well, you know who.
well, well, I think that's the fundamental shift in,
Hmm.
like, for example, Judaism and Talmudism. They are
Hmm.
a far cry from the original set of beliefs and
Yes,
what
yes,
the Bible actually says. So
right, right, right.
um, the path that they seem to be taking, or trying to project into humanity, is
Hmm.
one which is materialistic in nature,
Yeah.
whereas obviously the essence of Christianity is spiritual.
Hmm. Hmm.
So um, bringing about the material as some kind of a holy grail, I think they're literally looking to or striving to attain everlasting life
Yeah.
within this physical world,
Right, right. Yeah.
as opposed to
Um,
the physical spirit undying.
hmm. Hmm. I think that's an aspect of it. It's certainly there. A lot going on in the chat that I would like to share. I think there's some interesting convo.
Sure.
All right, so Robert says, I've always thought of Valkyries as prototype Christian angels. I see that. I think most of our ideas of what angels are like comes from Norse Germanic stories of Valkyries. This is a good point. We got Franklin here. Even in just the span of a year, it's improved greatly. Um, Bear goes on to say, there are certainly parallels, but I think even the idea of Valkyries go back. Valkyries, am I saying that right? Go back possibly to the Yamnaya people. Wow, that's going back. Is this the time of the Scythians?
Yeah,
There
yeah.
are some angel-like beings in all horse people progeny, I bet. Interesting. Excuse me. Pyle says the way angels are described in the Bible are nothing like the way that they are portrayed in popular culture.
That's
Interesting.
true. That's true.
That
They've got
that
like
I
six
could you
eyes and
yeah, yeah, like 10 wings or something, like
yeah,
circles
yeah.
within circles. And my guess on that is that it's because it's describing a multi-dimensional being within third dimensional language,
Perhaps
which is
true.
really
Yeah,
essentially impossible to do. Um,
definitely symbolic. Definitely symbolic, I would say.
yeah, that's an interesting topic. Great point. They are simply humans or ghastly beings that invoke fear. I'm not sure what you were referring to with that, but um, yeah, this is an interesting topic. I think an area of interest that I have is sort of where human history and UFO lore crossover. That's something I find very interesting, and I take it all with a grain of salt. I will. I don't know how to say this. Like I guess there's a type of culture out there today that's just really desperately looking for answers, and they get a little bit people get a little bit caught up in the like, oh, it's UFOs, therefore it's true kind of thing. Like they have to have critical thinking about this, and they have to say like, well, if this other thing, if you're saying this thing is true, then how can you say that other thing? Like, sort of check to see that they're staying consistent with their thoughts and the topics, da da da. Every once in a while, like someone will come out and he's like, "Oh, I'm this UFO guru, and I'm, subscribe to my channel," that kind of thing. And they'll say something like, "Oh, well, aliens see us as this like one race, and we're very primitive." And I'm like, "Well, if aliens are so smart, then they would know that we're not one race, we're several races." And da da da, so like I'll call them out on shit like that.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, it's just I don't know. It's kind of funny how it works. People are people, they're flawed in one way or another, and we're always kind of looking for answers, and we'll believe what people like. If people say what we want to believe, then we'll go with it. Um,
mm,
but that doesn't necessarily make it the truth.
yeah,
Um, yeah. But that can go the other way too. Like there was a girl on Twitter who made some kind of a really bold comment saying that like something to the extent that like God doesn't exist because it's just a humans just tell stories to themselves to cope with the pain of existence. And I was like, wow. And I mean, I love the girl. I don't, this isn't like I don't approach this like, you know, oh yeah, and then and I go in there, and that's not how that's not how I operate. And so I'm like, well, I agree with you about humans telling ourselves, stories to cope with things. But and then I kind of gave her a little bit of truth, but
laid it
that's
down.
yeah.
Mansplained to her.
Dude. Oh my god. Oh my god. That's funny. Well, I mean, she's in our sphere. She's not a liberal. But she has that kind of nihilistic view, you know. I don't know. That's a hot topic right there, man. Getting into like the existence of God. Jeez, I thought I was just gonna have a fun, silly show today. I was just gonna like goof around with you guys,
It's one of them. I think it's one of them subjects that most people would have thought about. Especially if you're creative and you're
Yeah.
conscious, self-aware, and
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah. Big time.
it's
Yeah.
I've been through different paths before. I've even been, I'd say, agnostic for a good chunk of my life, for about 15
Okay.
years.
Okay.
But I've always kind of come to the point that there has to be a creator. I can't see.
Mhm.
Um, I think it takes more faith to believe that we weren't created than the other way
Interesting.
around. To be honest,
Very interesting. Very
because
interesting.
if you even if you're going on the on the notion of observation, um,
Mhm. Mhm.
you know, on the observational sort of evidence,
Mhm.
we've only ever seen something created from an intellectual mind.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that from the get-go suggests to me that that is the default premise.
Yeah, it's a fascinating topic. Let me just say a quick hello to Jilly Storm. Welcome. Glad to have you here in the chat with my friends. Um, Bear is referring to, he was speaking about his point about ghastly beings. He says, I was referring to biblical accounts of angels. Yeah, with, those weird, you know, 10 wings and five eyes and circles within circles. It's tough to say. I mean, some people say that's like UFO stuff, but I think that's a simplification. Anyway, Robert says art and spirituality are kind of hard to separate. Excellent point. If you talk about art long enough, excuse me, you're going to end up talking about God and religion. Yeah. That's fascinating. See, I find that type of thinking really, really important because I feel that art in some way has a kind of a spiritual nature to it, just inherently. Um, but I guess that's because it's maybe, it's a form of creation, you know, I don't know, something to muse on. Um, but, I'll be honest, I have this idea of making another show that is essentially like not a diary, but like a vlog of my personal spiritual practices. And,
Okay.
just not again trying to set myself up as the big self-help guru of the, the movement, which is silly, but to say this is what works for me. And I'm in the movement and I'm struggling with it, as everybody else is. And these are the answers that I found. Take it as you will. You know what I'm saying? Like, see if you can use this. One of the aspects of that is because, or rather, is to use my background in Qigong meditation, which is like essentially Chinese yoga, and then
Okay.
compare it to Vril. So Vril is German esoteric, uh, I guess occultism, but Vril is really the energy of Qi. I mean, according to what I'm reading and researching, Vril is simply just the Germanic equivalent of Qigong, of Hindu prana, and these types of things. And so, many, many years ago, I went to Shaolin Temple and la la la, there's a long, long story about all that. But, people have been saying, why don't you teach it? Why don't you da da da? And a lot of it's kind of intimate, but then I'm sort of at a point where I'm thinking, yeah, do it, just put it out there. But my key point is to essentially frame it that like this is my path. I'm not telling anybody to go on this path or that there's any other path, or I'm not trying to challenge your religion or this or that. Rather, you know, I hope that these things could be beneficial to you. We kind of
Mm.
take that approach. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we'll get there. But
Yes.
there's only so many hours in the day as well. So
I know I find there's so many ideas and things that I want to do. I kind of start them and then shelf them for ages and then start a new project. And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's a bit of a problem I have.
Mm, I'm guilty of that as well.
We will have a different layout slightly.
Hmm. Okay. Hey, my friend in France is here. Howdy, Donald and friends. Good to have you, Aod. Um, I've been meaning to have him on the show at some point. He's a musician, and I love to bring musicians from the White Art Collective on my channel. So we'll have to set something up. You reach out to me, Aod, when you're ready, and teach me how to say your name properly as well in French. Um, we got some hellos from some friends. Feels like so much of my day is getting calories in. You're supposed to go out, not in, right? I think I've got about 10 more minutes for the show before I need to wrap it up because I've got some things going down today I gotta do.
Hmm.
That adulting stuff that we do.
Adulting, yeah.
Not my favorite
Mm.
word, but there you go. Um, Okay. Eh. So maybe people in the chat can kind of help me out with the idea for this. So I've got my character from Militiaman here, and I'm doing some artwork of him. He's like a hyper super nationalist superhero, very very cool character. Um, not like Darth Vader, but like you know the way he's presented in the book is he looks like he's the bad guy, and then gradually the main character comes to realize that they're on the same side, that they're friends.
Hmm.
Um, but he's clearly pretty badass. He's very very badass. And I've got him at this table here, and I have this idea of putting a map out. I originally thought of having like a feast, having like I don't know, just like a turkey and bowls of food and things, and that, in a sense, on the theme of white positivity, that we would kind of celebrate victory, that kind of feeling. Um, but then I guess when you're making art, this is what happens. You get ideas and ideas, and you kind of, which way should I go? What, and as far as your mood is, and when you look at this, what do you think would be appropriate to put on the table in this scene?
On the table.
Yeah.
So he's holding an axe. So is that someone else's hand on the to his right?
Over here, that
Yeah,
he's got.
that's
Hold on, I haven't like drawn it out very well, but it's basically his helmet that he's
right, right,
holding.
right.
Right, only it's the flip the other way.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so he's holding his helmet, and
Yeah, I've got a little glass of like
he's
a goblet here.
okay. What could go on the table? So what's the story moment? What's he
that,
thinking or
that
feeling?
that essentially is the story. Like whatever's on the table kind of tells the story. You
Exactly.
know what I'm saying?
Okay, so
So,
the story moment is is he reflecting on something, reminiscing? Is he
mm,
um is he plotting, or is he
ooh,
is that a clock in the background, or
yes, actually, that's funny you should say
okay.
that.
So
It's like,
maybe that can play a part in what's going on in the scene.
sure, sure,
It's
sure.
almost dawn or something, or
Uh-huh.
and did you say that he's gonna have a map?
Well, that was my original idea.
Okay.
But I'm just kind of questioning that right now and saying like, oh, do I want
Why
to do
not just
that?
draw like a how about a chessboard and he's playing with himself?
Oh, you cheeky bastard, you. That is fucking genius, man. That's my man right here. I tell you, that's why you are patriarch. I tell you, that is a kingly idea. I love that. Now, here's
Hmm.
to make things even more interesting. And it's very dim because of the pencil. Maybe I can pull it up to the screen a bit better. But this is meant to be a portrait in a frame on the wall behind him. And I was thinking of putting Uncle A in there. um, yeah, but I was thinking maybe more like Isaac, like Mosley or somebody, or
Yeah,
Enoch,
but
or yeah.
is it you don't intend this to get sold on Amazon or anything, do you?
That's a very funny question. If I were to sell this, it would be to people in our movement. Like
Yeah,
somebody
yeah,
who's watching the show and wants to have the original. But what I will do is make a copy and put it in my next book. It's essentially like Imperium Calling second edition or whatever. Um,
yeah. Hmm.
so yeah, like everything I do on this show, I want to eventually put into a book, you know,
Cool.
in time.
What do you think to the title, by the way? I've jigged it around to continuum. A bit of a play on the word.
Oh my God, how cool! Let's take a look. Let's take a look. Um, this is like a concept album almost. You know what I mean? Continuum. I love that, dude. Yeah, you're killing it, man. You're killing it with the ideas. This is really really cool. Um, so let's look at the
Yeah, I
chat,
thought the other one was a bit too long-winded. So
and it's more clever too. Like I think
okay.
continuum could actually be a part of our dialectic. Like, what,
Yeah, true.
making art is part of our continuum, or, that this cultural something or other is part of our continuum. What are you doing for your continuum? What are you leaving behind the next generation?
Yeah,
You see where I'm
exactly.
going? Like, you
Uh-huh.
really tapped into something profound here. So
Yeah.
regarding my
Thank you.
question, Bear says fish and bread and mead and horns of ale. That's a beautiful idea. Now I'm hungry. Um, yeah. Let's see. Simple is better. Maybe a play of Loganberry and Cloudberry. Okay. Sadie's here. Welcome, Sadie. An hourglass. Oh yeah. I mean,
Hourglass is cool.
I do
Watching
have
the
a
sands
clock.
of
Well, no, no.
yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah,
hearing
yeah.
it. It feels like you've got to do something now. What's your choice? You know what I mean? Like you need to make a move now. Like, and that's we're so much in that. Like we're so much in them. This is a
Hmm.
brilliant idea, Sadie, and welcome to my community, or our community. It's not my community. The continuum. Welcome to the continuum. What else?
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. Chessboard. Okay. Yeah. We had
Yeah,
talked.
yeah, I know. I was thinking that's going to be a bit of extra work for yourself.
It's fine. I can do it.
Unless you just you don't have to do them in order. You can just have two pieces on there, and he's about to make checkmate. Something.
Yeah. Okay, let's have a full spread of food from ancient German cuisine and a chessboard and da, 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 da. I'm just saying, how much can I pile on there? I was also thinking of having like a treasure chest with like gold and jewels and things coming out to sort of represent like looking over the victory and the spoils of the victory. And that was one of the ideas that I had.
Hmm.
What else
Well,
have
you
we?
could just say someone's head on a platter.
Ah,
No,
yeah,
it's
that's
a
that won't be. This show will not be for children. No, I always make sure these shows are not that they're
yeah,
just for
yeah.
adults. But yeah,
Uh,
it's a heavy thought right there.
what's the next page you plan to have anyway? I'm assuming it's gonna have like sequential order to it all.
Oh no, I was just gonna make just like a pinup or fan art, so to speak, of that character because
Okay, cool,
I'm well underway with my comics. Like a lot of my people who watch my show, they come and see me inking
awesome.
the comic book pages every day.
Yeah,
They're all,
they look cool.
yeah, so it's a lot of
I
thought.
still I told you about that the comic story that I was writing for a long time,
Hmm.
and yeah, I only just I'll send you I can send you the actual some of the scripts if you want to read, but the audio book was I started doing
Hmm.
the audio since I started playing around with different voices and stuff. Um,
You're
I
doing an
think
audio comic. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, when it started out as a written comic book, and I did intend to draw it, but I
Okay.
think to actually get it out there, the easier route to market would be not even to sell it, but just to distribute it out and
Yeah.
create something, finish it off, would be to do it in audio format.
Hmm.
Because there's so many decent voices now. I'd already basically got one down, and yeah, I got the first 20 minutes of it. I'll send you that
Cool. Cool.
sometime to have a look.
Yeah, I mean, I like audiobooks. I think audiobooks are awesome. I actually went to an indie author lecture recently,
Okay.
and just hearing just various published authors talk about like this is what's going on in the industry, things you need to know, da 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 da. And and I'm a believer in like audiobooks. I've listened to a billion of them because that's what I do while I'm drawing. That's how I've become so knowledgeable about the stuff I know. But
Hmm.
and I mean, if anybody did that for 15 years, they'd be knowledgeable too. But and I know they were kind of saying like, oh, you're not going to make any money, and then maybe you didn't make any money, but that doesn't mean nobody's making money at it. So anyway, let's move on. What do we got? Sadie. I love that name, Sadie. She says this is so meta quintessential art collective letting us become involved in the creative process. Beauty. Yeah, this is, I mean, and this is episode two. So, like, this is going to be a really cool show. I'm very excited about it. And just a quick reminder again, next week, Kai Moros is the theme of the show. Um, if again, like, if you don't know who Kai Moros is, you need to go look him up. Really tremendous, revolutionary speech maker for our movement, and so I'll be playing clips of his stuff. I'm wondering if I can get him to come on the show. He's a bud, so I don't know. We'll see. But it's cool having you guys partake in all of this. Franklin
Yeah.
says you can go through audiobooks so fast. See, that's the other thing is like you can do something. You can work out, you can clean the house, you can be making art, you can do whatever, and not and you're learning in the meantime. Whereas like I'm not
Yeah.
criticizing reading, but reading it takes effort and time. So you get the idea. Kai Moros next week. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's going to be a good show. Tune in. Sadie says, "Lol, I have that book from Antelope Hill." Yeah. See, great minds think alike. There you go. All right. Awesome sauce. So let's go back to Paul and see how the continuum is coming.
Continuum.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did have a hyphen. I took that out. Um, just yeah.
Just to mess with me, huh?
Well, what do you think? Do you prefer it with the hyphen to separate the
I like
emphasis
it. I
on the?
like it. I like it because it sort of when you read it without it, you think like, oh, I don't know what that word is. It's a foreign word or something. But when I see
Okay.
that,
Yeah.
it's like
True.
Spider-Man with a hyphen in it, it somehow makes you go, oh, I get it. You're making a pun here, a play on words.
Yeah. 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 Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
it
And then I don't
helps.
have to mansplain it to anyone.
Yeah. No one needs to be mansplained to, do they?
I know. They
It's
don't
just
like
not
it.
called for.
Yeah, they don't. It's not called for. Yeah, I don't mean to be that guy, but anyway, so funny.
Yeah.
There's a kind of a meme out there that everybody knows. They're the Skeletor from He-Man, and
Oh
he
yeah.
says like inappropriate jokes and stuff, and it's him in the first panel, and then the second panel is always him running away saying "till next time." And in the first panel he says, "Ladies, mansplaining means when a man is explaining. Until next time." And then, which is, like rude, but funny in a way. So
Yeah.
anyway. And I mean that. See, there you go. That comes right back to what we were talking about: the use of dialectic. Making up terms like mansplaining is just it's really just hating on men. It's just like
Well,
oh,
I
you
think
can't.
it's. I mean, it's rooted in a little bit of truth in the sense that men tend to um, bring solutions um,
Right,
to
right.
the situation. And so men have a tendency to want to help and bring a solution and
Sure, sure.
explain.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's our way of often trying to help. And
Exactly.
so I think they
Yeah.
turned it into something that's actually,
It's a feminist thing, it's
yeah,
not
yeah,
it's not like normal people don't say, "Oh, don't mansplain," that only feminists would. They
yeah,
do it essentially to try to hurt you. And only not only that, I mean, what if I use the term like, "Oh, don't Jew-splain, please," or "Don't black-splain," or "Don't Hispanic-splain." You see how kind of bigoted that is? It's like
yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's
yeah.
meant to hurt, which I don't appreciate. So, because I'm very fragile.
Hmm.
Anyway, what else is shaking in here? We got a lot of people are excited about the Kai Moros show. I'm really happy about that. Carlo is saying, these streams are so cozy, such a great positive atmosphere. That's what we're about, my man.
Yep.
I love that meme. He knows the one. Yeah. Hollandier is here. Welcome. It is
Welcome, Hernando.
Yes, it's a harp lyre behind the war. Yes, it is. He's referring to my piece. It's like built into his chair, like his throne. The symbolism I'm implying here is Apollonian. Apollo, the symbol of Apollo is the lyre, and which is basically art and music. You see, so now you know. There you go, and now you know.
Hmm.
Haha. All right. So who else is chatting back here? Veronica, I have to leave now. Great stream and great art, guys. Thank you. Good to have
Goodbye,
you.
Veronica.
Yes, see you next time. Well met. This is something Hollandier says all the time. I like it. It's cool. I'm gonna have to steal that. Instead of saying
Well
well
met.
said, like we would, I think in English or whatever we would say well said, but well met. It's kind of a
Hmm.
neat phrase. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah,
So
awesome.
yeah.
It's coming on.
Hmm. Yeah.
Do you like to color? How do you? What's your general process for coloring?
Well, I get my crayons out. No, no. Um, it's funny because actually I don't like to color. When I say color, I'm talking about comic books. I like to paint with color. If I'm doing, watercolor or oil painting, of course, it's like you draw with color, right? You paint with color and light. But digital coloring in comics is oh, horribly tedious. It's maddeningly tedious. You have to trace a shape and then and then after tracing it you paint inside it and blah. I don't know. The people who do that kind of work, I give them a lot of credit. I've done it. I've done a ton of it, but I pay people to do that work. I can't. It's just super time consuming. And they have teams of people that do that now.
Yeah, yeah, true.
You know. Yeah.
But I think if you was to take them digital, you'd find it a lot quicker to do. You can just use like a color overlay, and your lines will just shine like come through. You won't have to mess around.
Hmm.
You know, it,
Yeah, it's an interesting subject because, especially artists like to know like, well, how do you like to work? What's your preferred tools, methods, madness, whatever. And it's just a common question, right? So
mm,
I guess I'm gonna say that I love organic. There's something about the organic that it's just it's me.
yeah,
Um, I don't know. To me, when I'm painting on, say, a tablet of some kind, it feels like it takes the visceral, physical quality out of the experience. And I compare it to like if imagine if you took a shot of Novocaine in your tongue and then you ate some food. Like you couldn't really taste the food. You don't have or rather, you don't have the texture, and so I don't. Do you get my point? I mean, and most
yeah,
I
yeah,
know. I mean, most of the artists in our sphere are digital artists. So and you can do things in digital art that are freaking amazing. It's magical. So yeah, I would like to do that, but I also feel like I should differentiate myself a little bit too. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Just
yeah.
kind of like be the one guy that doesn't do that or something. But we got some more
You
comments
have your
here.
preference.
Yeah. Let's see. Like stuff. I'm trying to catch up on some of these chats here. Sadie says, "I think you guys are well on a conversation here, and I lost track. But what do we got? I'll be darned if I can pronounce that. I'm not going to try to pronounce that because I'll sound like an idiot. Is a German word used to convey the idea of a state of feeling of warmth, friendliness, and good cheer. Other qualities encompassed by the term include coziness, Gemütlichkeit, maybe Gemüt, Gemütlichkeit. I want to learn German so bad. I'm ashamed of myself that I don't speak German. I really am. Peace of mind and a sense of belonging and well-being. Well, I hope that we have that in this show. Robert, yeah, I really like the chimeral stuff. Hope I can make it next week. Of course, you can always watch the playback, but it's good to have you here. This is what they took from us. Ooh, oh, that's heavy. Bear says, "Hail, fellow, well met."
As
uh, is, hail, fellow, well met is an English idiom used when referring to a person whose behavior is hearty, friendly, and congenial in the affirmative sense. Oh, hail, fellow, well met. Oh, that's nice. That's good to know. Hey, look who just showed up. CG's here. Excellent. Morning, fam. CG's got a great show on the Warcast. Look it
mhm.
up. Hollandier says, question for Patriot. Did you continue work on the Robert E. Lee themed piece from last week? Yes, we featured it in the beginning of the show. Now, if you want to pop it back on the screen, if you can. The composition was really cool, and I hope it. I'm gonna zoom in on that. Hang on. It got good.
Yeah, I still need to change a little bit. I'm gonna make these a little bit smaller. These guys at the front a bit smaller and a little bit more, so they appear to be running from him as opposed to kind of just running forwards.
Mm,
There's a bit of fear there, like maybe someone stumbling over. That was a suggestion from one of the guys in the Patriotic community. So
mm,
I'm definitely gonna do that. Just finding the time. I'll probably do that tomorrow, and yeah, and I'll find time before next week to finalize the poster.
Yeah, everyone's like loving this. This is cool stuff. Could you zoom in on the top part? I really think that's a very beautiful. It's sort of ghostly in a beautiful way there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted to get the people just to show that like there's a number of people really kind of that have emerged out of noticing this
hmm
act. All they've done is awakened the minds of our
Yeah.
people in many ways.
Right.
This
Right.
is a
Right.
bit of a spooky image. They're like loads of different eyeballs watching.
Hmm.
Don't know if that
Well,
comes
see,
across.
that's the thing is like the more that they abuse us, the more people notice. And I
Yeah,
mean, you get the idea. You know how it works.
yeah.
So.
So yeah, these will be a little bit smaller, maybe three quarters of what they are now.
Mhm.
Um, One of them will be stumbling, looking back, and you know, so yeah,
So I feel like it's been a pretty good show, a pretty long show. We haven't really finished the work.
longer than
Maybe
usual. Yeah.
by the beginning of next show we can show the progress on these pieces. It's been really cool hanging out and talking with you guys. We've proved the existence of God on this show. We had a lot of interesting meta art creative thing happening. I learned a little German. We've got a lot of excitement here. So much appreciated and more to come. Once again, the monthly White Art Challenge group on Telegram. Artists are available there for doing commissions for art, for Christmas gifts. It's that Yuletide time of year again. So look up monthly White Art Challenge on Telegram to get in touch. They've got 170 artists. It's amazing. It's an amazing community run by an amazing woman, Jayla Dark. She is truly punk rock in the most beautiful sense of the word. So I want to say
Mm.
God bless you guys. Paul, thank you so much. Again, we're going to keep cranking out the cool times. And
Yep.
any last words or final messages, announcements, anything?
Just thanks for tuning in, guys. You helped to make this show, and hope that you tune in next week. And also, yeah, just bear in mind we've got the Patriotic Arts Community Contest. It's on
Mhm,
till March, so there's the creative contest and the database contest. If you want to check
mhm,
out the website, all the information you need is there. And the
mhm,
website
mhm,
is patrioticarts.community.
mhm. Excellent, excellent. Yes, and so and the link is in the show notes too, so you're good to go, friends.
Okay, brilliant, brilliant.
Yeah, and always will be. So God bless you. We love you. Have
All
yourselves
right.
a wonderful day, and see you next week.